Alrighty. Excuse me. There we go. Excellent. Hello. Okay. Let me get Restream hooked up so we can get the chat going on stream. There we go. All right, hopefully that'll work. Also, I apologize in advance. I don't know if you guys can really hear fans at all right now in the background. Oh, no. No frames at all. Oh, what the heck? What just happened? Oh no. Oh, there we go. Now it's better. Never mind. It did not like that. It did not like me turning on Restream. I might have to give that one a second. I just totally so I have troubles with trying to connect to the chat thingy we are currently using, and normally what ends up happening is it conks out as soon as I try to connect it. But now I have a workaround and I'm using that. But thank you all so much for being here. Oh, it's not. Why is it giving me warning stuff again? Also, warning as well, it is very hot outside. I do not have the doggo camera turned on because it's very hot in here. And whenever it gets really hot, especially the dog camera, like it tends to like glitch, I guess is the best word for it. So I don't currently have that on right now. I do have a fan going. I'm actually gonna settings. I'm gonna bump it up. There's a little notch there, just to make sure everything goes well. But yeah, here we are. It is Friday evening. We are here for our Q&A. Glad that you can all see this okay. And also because it is so hot, basically what my plan for today is I'm going to do a little bit of like a date night, get ready with me type situation. I'm not going to be doing like a full glam YouTube makeup look, but we are going to be doing some makeup at least. So hopefully that'll be fun and enjoyable. But I want to start off by doing a Q&A because we did not get to stream last week because I was at Southeast Leatherfest in beautiful, also very warm, record-breaking temperatures that weekend, Atlanta. And it was a really great experience. I had a fun time. I am planning to make a whole video talking about my experience at Southeast Leatherfest because it's my first time going there in person. But I also want to make sure we can get to a more general Q&A as well. Okay, it's like not showing me anything. Okay, let's go ahead and try to reconnect the chat and just see if we can get that to work. I feel like I've done this before and it's been fine. I'll just keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll work. It seems to be maintaining a steady bit rate. It's going to be like 92 today, so let's see. I'm just making sure that see if the chat's connected. Okay, great. The chat is connected. Everything is working as it should. Okay. Yeah, hopefully if it's too distracting, I can go ahead and turn it off at some point. Fans are audible but expected. Okay. Yeah, there's not really an easy way to, like, I can't EQ out fan noise, because if I do that, it ends up, like, taking up, I mean, maybe this is something AI will change in the future, but, like, it can't tell the difference between, like, vocal range and fan noise, so it's very hard to get rid of it. You're good. Thank you. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, if you're new here, hi, welcome so much. I love that you are here. I know that it's Friday and it's the weekend. You could be off doing other fun things, but I am glad that I get to spend a little bit of my Friday evening with you all and your Friday evening with me. This is an 18 plus only live stream, like it says right down there. So if you are not at least 18, please do not be here. That is for everyone's safety, my safety, your safety. Just, it's not generally a good idea to mix talking about kink and relationship advice from adults and minors together. Like, obviously, if you are a teenager, you can date, you can do other things with other teenagers, but it's not appropriate to have conversations with adults about that stuff, and it's just not good safety-wise to be mixing all that. So if you're not at least 18, please come back when you turn 18. We'd be happy to have you. And there are other more age-appropriate resources like Scarletine, other age-appropriate forums that are done by people who are in the medical profession, who are sanctioned to give advice to teenagers about this kind of thing. But that's really important. There's also rules down below you can go ahead and check out. We have a little FAQ down there for commonly asked questions. So if you want to know about like where to buy gear, how to tell your partner you're interested in kink, all that stuff is down below. And yeah, we just basically hang on here. We have a fun time. I normally put in a couple of ideas for what we can talk about in the title of the stream, but normally it's kind of whatever y'all want to talk about. I could talk about sort of the Tumblr video I made recently, maybe some follow-up questions from that. I could talk about my convention experience. We could talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. It's really up to you. And then I do answer questions in the order they come in. So if you want to make sure to get your question answered, the best way to do that is by asking early and often. Thank you for the super chat, Twixie. It says, speaking of background noise, I was doing some voice acting for a Who Cow file, and my mic decided to extend moo was background noise and it cut out after 5 seconds. Oh, your extended moo was background noise. Oh, because it was held for too long. Yeah, I understand that. That is unfortunate. It cut out. I have had that happen actually in the video I made, the Tumblr video. When I was editing the audio, I didn't realize it until I'd already uploaded it and it was live, so I couldn't really fix it. But it had cut out a section where I'd said, like, problematic. Like, I think I said it a little too quietly compared to my regular audio level, and it just cut it out as, like, being background noise. So there's, like, a mysterious pause where I say problematic, but you can't hear anything. You can only see me saying problematic. And it's kind of funny because it works to be like, wait, why is it censored? Like, it wasn't like I had to censor the word problematic for YouTube. It just, like, I don't know why it got cut out. The only thing I can think of is because, like, I said it a little bit too quietly, but that's it. All right, I'm gonna just very quickly, I am kind of like taking a little bit of like, not a full-on break, like I'm not like logged out, but I just like am not checking in on like Twitter and stuff. So I'm not super active on there right now. So if there's any big drama happening on Tumblr, I probably don't know about it. But maybe there is. I don't know. I have not seen it was funny how much dialogue we had before Pride Month, but I feel like June itself has actually been weirdly quiet outside of the Tumblr poll. Like, it's like, I'm like waiting. I'm like, it's almost the end of the month. Like, what's going to happen? I also know that I did not necessarily give enough people a warning that we were streaming, so I also understand that as well. Alrighty, there we go. We are posted over on twitter.com. Sweet. Okay. All right. So many good questions y'all are asking and talking about. Yeah, definitely stay cool out there. Heat index would be 102 tomorrow and 106 on Sunday with lows in the upper 80s. For those who don't know Fahrenheit, the heat indices are 39 and 41 Celsius. Yeah, that is... Anything above 30 degrees Celsius is really hot, and it being above 40 is absolutely not. So definitely stay safe, drink water. It's a really tough time if you don't have AC. Actually, in Atlanta, I was cooler being in Atlanta than I am here because everywhere in Atlanta has AC. Every restaurant, the whole hotel, the airport, everyone's cars are like bumped up to the max on AC. Whereas like here in Portland, I mean, really in the Northwest in general, like, no one has AC. Like, restaurants will, and, like, you know, hospitals, hotels will have AC. But, like, no one's apartments or, like, Even houses usually have AC. It's not really a standard feature. So especially lately when it's been getting warmer and warmer and warmer, it's been rough. It's been a rough time. This will be my first time watching any of your streams, and I just want to say I love all your videos, and you really helped me get into kink and learn more about myself and the community. You are so welcome, Caitlin. I really appreciate that. I will say this about going to Self, and I'll say this again in the video too. I met so many people at Self who were so kind and so grateful to me for the videos I make, and it wasn't even just like a certain demographic. It was like across the board. I had people who were like title holders, people who run local events, people in MS relationships, people that are brand new to kink, people that have been in the scene for 5, 10, 20 plus years who like, knew my videos and were really grateful for them and were like telling me, like I share this with like my local TNG group, or there's somebody at our local munch who always like asks about, who's watched the latest Evie Lupine video, or like, the designated person who like keeps up to date with my content, and people who like, they said it helped them explain stuff to partners or help them discover something. And I had a couple people tell me that they're like, oh, you probably hear this all the time. And it's like, I definitely don't. I hear it like a couple times a year when I go to conventions. And even if I have like 5 people say it to me in one day, like it doesn't make it any less meaningful. It is really impactful to have people like be brave enough to come up to me and then say like, hey, your videos really helped me. And like generally speaking, unless it's like really hot and muggy, I'm always happy to like give people a hug. I'm very happy to just like hang out with people and like chat. I had to actually, before I left to go catch my plane home, I had a really great conversation with somebody who's going to be running for a title in Florida this year, and I got to like talk to them about the contest and what they're working on. And it's just, maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened like post Self ending. If you've been on FetLife, you may have seen some things, but like at Self itself as a convention, which is sort of a tongue twister, like I had a really great time. I met so many people. As of right now, I'm definitely planning on coming back because I had a really good experience, and I think the people who run Self did a really good job with it, and I felt very welcome being there. I didn't really meet a lot of people who were from my neck of the woods. Most people were from like Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia. I think I met one person that was from like Kansas, Iowa, like people that were like sort of more towards that region, but not super close. But most people were from like the Carolinas, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, sort of that whole like southeast region. And so that was just really, really nice. And I would definitely go back. Side note, I will say I think the vegan food in Atlanta is a little overrated. I've heard people say they have really, really good vegan food, but maybe being spoiled by Portland and Seattle before that. I had really good Mexican food in Atlanta, actually, vegan Mexican food that was fantastic. But everything else I had, like especially like more kind of like Instagram famous like vegan places I went to in Atlanta were like not as good as I was expecting. So that was a little bit disappointing. But overall, I had a good time. Oh, it's good. It's in the high 30s in Quebec. That's too much. Like especially that far north. That's way too hot. Way too hot. As I've heard about this before, the nickname of the city of Atlanta is famously and ironically Hotlanta. No, I've definitely, I heard that on the news actually when I was there. Like there was a whole thing about like, Hotlanta living up to its name over the Father's Day weekend because it was so blazing hot. And like, it's definitely a different heat than here, but it's also like, it's a little bit better because most people are like, well, they're aware of it, they're more prepared for it, and there's AC in a lot of places, but still got to be careful. Self is Southeast Leatherfest. It's a big, well, not big. It's like a mid-sized, bigger than a play party, certainly smaller than some other conventions. It's like, I want to say maybe 800, 900 person convention in Atlanta that happens every year. I think probably over Father's Day weekend, sort of mid-June. And, it's got a contest, it's got events, it's got auctions, bootblacking, dungeon nights, all kinds of classes, parties, meetups, vendor area, karaoke, all the stuff you gotta have. All the necessities in life, really. Who am I? I'm Evie Lupine, and I talk about BDSM for a living. That's the short intro, maybe, the short intro. Yes, Bendita has been spotted. She's currently trying to find a cool spot. She's got a full thing of water, so don't worry about her too much. She wanted to go outside earlier, but it was like, I'm like, I don't know, maybe we should wait till it gets a little bit darker outside before we go out and brave the asphalt. It gets toasty out there. All right, I am going to get up real quick, and I'm going to grab my water bottle. I'm going to turn off the fan in the background there. So, BRB, keep putting your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them. Alrighty, I am back. Thank you all for surviving me being gone. This is the official Evie Lupine colored purple and green honeydew melon creation. It's a honeydew creatine, because that's my life now. It's fantastic. It's delicious. I highly recommend it. Be careful about what creatine you buy, though, because some of it's nasty. But that's, I don't know, maybe that's your kink. Who am I to judge? I don't know if that really made a difference. I imagine this one that's a lot closer is probably quite a bit louder, but I don't know. Maybe it'll cool down and I can turn it off a little bit. But it personally bothers me because, when there's a bunch of fans going, it's hard for me to, hear my own thoughts. So I like a nice, quiet environment. Ooh, great question. Okay, we got a little, three-parter. Okay. All right, buckle up, everyone. Let's get to this. Question part 1. Help destigmatize kink to my partner again. Long story short, 2 couples in our group try swinging. It's a case of one partner wants an open relationship and the other's talked into it. Oh, that's always a mess waiting to happen there. Obviously very messy. Split the friend group. Now my partner is speaking negatively about it. He believes it's a kink and has labeled them as sexual deviants with a heavy negative connotation. Okay, that's a very interesting direction to take that one in. When we started dating, I worked to educate him on how kink isn't abusive or wrong. We do have a dynamic, but we're strictly monogamous. Now I feel like he's taken a step backwards in accepting kink. Oh, that's so interesting. So there's a couple things going on here, right? I mean, obviously it's a multi-part thing, so of course there is. But there's swinging happening, which is not a kink. That's just having a type of open relationship. But it's not really a healthy open relationship because it's one partner wants it and is maybe the most charitable way of saying it is dragging the other partner into it, right? And then your partner's observing that and he doesn't like that, I think for probably good reason. If you have a person in a friend group who is being dragged into something that's making them miserable, you're going to have probably negative feelings about that. But then to process that is it's a kink, and now I will kink shame them as I am justified in doing because I guess them, which is interesting. So both of them collectively as sexual deviants and that being a negative thing. I mean, I guess my gut instinct reading that, especially knowing that the two of you are monogamous, is that, I mean, I guess I don't know. You'd have to tell me. I don't know if this is relevant or not, strictly speaking, but maybe just to think about this yourself. I get a sense of they are sort of defensively putting down a particular non-monogamous practice as being like cringe / bad because they are maybe insecure that like if they don't speak out very strongly against it, like maybe your eyes would be open to non-monogamy in some way, and they definitely don't want to go there at all. So it's easier to just be like, this is really gross and bad and wrong and it's disgusting, and shove it really, really far away and make it very plain that they are not willing to go anywhere near that because it's so revolting and disgusting to them. Like almost to the point where like I don't get the sense that it really matters that much if it's a positive or a negative thing to them, like if it's done well or done poorly. I think certainly being done poorly helps lend some credence to the argument that we shouldn't practice this, it's bad and wrong because look how terrible and awful it is for these people. But I think honestly, even if your partner, or not your partner but your friends, were in a partnership that was more healthy, I imagine maybe less vocally there would probably still be some like suspicion and resentment towards an open relationship. So I think I'd tackle this on a couple levels. I think one, like having an open relationship is not typically a kink. I mean, there are certain kinks that involve open relationships like stag vixen or cuckolding. Those like will have elements of an open relationship to them, but just swinging by itself is not a kink. It's a very separate community. They have very separate standards, especially with regards to like consent. They tend to be more transphobic than most kinky people are. It's like I personally have like a little bit of a like not anti-swinger, but anti-swinging bias. I think it was a model of open relationship that made sense for the time period it was created in, which was like 40s, 50s, 60s, as sort of a stepping stone into other open relationships maybe being more normalized. But there's a lot of it that I find to be problematic in approach and ethical framework that's sort of outside what I consider to be ethical. But like other people can do it if that's your thing. I hope it brings you joy. But it's not a kink, and I don't like particularly want to be around it. And like there's a degree of overlap. Like you will see, I think they're called like strawberry parties at swingers venues and events. And like certainly being in Portland, a lot of our venues in the kink community either overlap with or are ran by swingers, which I think has led to certain ways of doing kink in public that I'm not like fully comfortable with. But there is overlap there, but it's not normally like in the sense that swinging itself is a kink, right? So like we got to understand that, like, first of all, right? Swinging, not a kink, number one. Two, in addition to that, I think probably more importantly is, and this can be difficult, a lot of people have issues or are like not attuned to their emotions this way. I would just want to like investigate with like open-minded curiosity, like what their feelings are about this. Like I might say something, if I had a partner that had like a really unexpectedly strong reaction to seeing somebody else do something in a relationship, I might say like, wow, it sounds like, you have really strong feelings about this, and I'm curious if you could tell me more what those feelings are. Like, what is that bringing up for you? That sounds therapeutic. I'd like probably workshop that a little bit more if I was like bringing that to a partner, but like that's the idea, right? Is like open-minded curiosity, just like wanting to figure out more like what this feeling is that's coming up in your partner. Like, is it a sense of like injustice and feeling defensive on behalf of the partner that's like being like drug into this swinging scenario? Is it a disgust for open relationships on the whole? Is it fear that, seeing open relationships might like taint you and like make you think about wanting to have an open relationship? And like I think even if it is that latter one, a lot of people might not recognize that until like they're already in that moment. So yeah, it can be difficult, but it's interesting. I think open relationships, and like not even just your partner, but like journalists, news people. I think I've seen in the last year, especially, a lot of people that are public figures and influential have very strong negative reactions to like seeing or reading any kind of open relationship or polyamory. So having a story where somebody's experiencing that is not that surprising to me. But yeah, I would approach things with curiosity. And then I would try to like gently educate them while validating their emotional experience that like, not all open relationships are swinging. Open relationships, generally speaking, really value consent and all parties wanting to actively be there. Probably reaffirm to them that, like, you have no intentions of having an open relationship. You're happy being monogamous. This doesn't change anything about your relationship. This isn't a moment for you in terms of, like, exploration. You just, like, value empathy, and, like, hopefully that'll maybe help rub off some positive things onto your partner. I don't know. We can always hope, right? We can always hope that people will do better. But that's the framework that I would be thinking about things in, and that's how I would approach things. So hopefully that gives you some things to think about. Is there anything else I'd want to, like, talk about or, like, ask a partner about if that was me and I was in that situation with a partner? I think it really just comes down to, like, empathy for the emotional experience they're having, trying to investigate where those emotions come from, and then, like, rationally talk out, like, what's coming up, and try to figure out what is, like, factual and known versus what's, you know, underlying bias and assumption. And I think a lot of people, you know, this is why you hear things like people saying, like, oh, open relationships never work, or, like, I've never heard of a polyamorous relationship that's been fully consensual, or, like, no one ever does poly for real. Everyone's just doing it temporarily until they find, like, the one, right? You know, people that are polyamorous are just in denial, or they've been gaslit into it, or they're you know, a slave to hedonism, or, like, a bunch of other stuff, you know, so it definitely happens. A lot of people asking me if I am polyamorous, because I have a cuckolding kink, but actually I'm very monogamous. Yes, that is, like, one of the things to know, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's helped me kind of, like, gives me an opportunity to flesh this out. Like, things like, this is why I said that it can have an element of, like, non-monogamy to it, because certainly people that have, like, a stag vixen kink or cuckolding, like you have, any flavor of that, like, you can have a kink for it and, like, still practice monogamy. Like, just having a kink for something doesn't mean that, like, you have to change the way that you practice a relationship, or that, like, also, like, it depends on how you define monogamy too, right? Like, some people, like, if you look at another person and find them sexually attractive, that's, like, a violation of the boundaries of monogamy. Or, like, looking at porn is a violation of the boundaries of monogamy. But for other people, if they have a partner who, like, finds other people attractive, or they play together non-sexually, or even if they engage in a kink that could be sexual, but in, like, a very narrow, limited context with, like, the other partner present and, like, a bunch of other things, they might still consider that to be, like, within the realm of their monogamy. Because I think at the end of the day, even if we spend a lot of time in terms of talking about relationships and polyamory and all that, talking about sex, like, I think what is more important to most people is, like, emotional fidelity and emotional monogamy, and, like, having a person that's, like, your person, your number one, the person you talk to about everything, and, like, not violating that with, like, emotional boundaries being overstepped. I think physical boundaries are, like, to be clear, also very important. But I think especially in kink, more people are, like, able to entertain the fact that, like, oh, you can go off and play with someone and do certain scenes just for the fun of it. Like, you might go, like, scuba diving with someone, or snorkeling, or skateboarding, or rock climbing, and that doesn't mean you're not monogamous to me. It just means that you had a fun, physical, intense experience with somebody else, but, like, the emotional connection and our history together is, like, still unique and still sacred in the relationship, and that hasn't been violated. So, like, even how we look at monogamy is, like, very interesting, I think, and it can definitely vary for a lot of people. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like I'm just people with open relationships in general, because he's only seen unhealthy examples, usually when couples use it as a last-ditch effort to save the relationship. Certainly that is, especially if you are monogamous and you are in monogamous spaces, what you will see is monogamous people trying polyamory because you are in monogamous social circles. And there are absolutely people, I see them on dating apps all the time. I don't, like, date them myself personally, but, like, you'll see them, people, and, like, okay, so there's two flavors of this, right? There's, like, unhealthy, which is, like, we're 35 years old, we have 2 kids, we got married at 20, you know, we're bored in our relationship, we're totally different people now, we each want totally different things, and we're not really happy with each other, but in order to, like, preserve the relationship, we're gonna date other people to try to make things work for the sake of, like, getting to stay married. And it's sort of similar to, like, having a kid to try and save the relationship, I think it's probably not as bad as that. I think that's probably a worse thing to do. But just because you're like bringing a whole other life into the world is like a next level compared to just temporarily dating someone. Like, it's much more permanent to bring in a whole other life versus just like dating someone for a couple months, you know, or like going on dates or making a dating app profile. So you certainly see that. But then the flip side of that is, like, you do also see people, and these are people that I've dated or I've gone on dates with. Like, I meet a lot of people in the polyamorous community that have been healthily practicing polyamory for, like, a number of years, who a lot of them grew up very religious, especially here in Portland. A lot of Mormons, a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness people, a lot of people from other various, like, more fundamentalist type religious backgrounds. They were not allowed to explore sexually or romantically as teenagers. They got married super young because that was what was prescribed by their church or their leadership or their families. So they got married really young. They never got a chance to even date anyone else, really. And for like 10, 15 years, they were just on that life track. Eventually, at some point, they realize that, like, maybe Mormonism is not the way, and they deconstruct or they leave religion, they become atheist, agnostic, what have you. And oftentimes through that, especially if their partner is joining them in that journey of, like, leaving religion or deconstructing, they want to stay together in that marriage because they have a really deep bond. They could be best friends. They might even still be, like, each other's number one romantic and sexual partner. But, like, when you're 30, 35, and you realize, like, I've literally never dated anyone else. I've never had sex with anyone else. I've never even gotten to have, like, an intimate, important relationship. And, like, I just left this really important community maybe a couple of years ago. I don't really have anyone in my life, outside of my spouse is really important to me. I want to have a chance, and I want my spouse to have the chance mutually to get to explore things. And that actually can be really healthy for people if they're going into it as, like, a strong unit together, where they're each trying to make sure that, like, we get to have the experiences in our lives that we want to have that were denied to us. Maybe oftentimes it's also connected to sexuality. Like, you meet people that are bi or pan, or figure out they're trans too, that are like, hey, so I was raised really religious. I never got to even think about my sexuality. And at 30, I realized that I'm a bisexual man, and I kind of want to explore that. And, like, I love my wife and I want to be with her, but also, like, I want to know what it's like to be with a dude. And this is not to say that people who are bi or pan cannot be monogamous, or even would be unhappy being with a person of a certain gender or sex for the rest of their lives. But, you know, coming from that background of, like, restriction and prohibition and, like, not being allowed to do certain things, like, you might want to explore stuff. You might want to have a different type of relationship than, you know, what your previous community told you could have. So that definitely happens. But I guess all this is to say, this is a very, very long-winded example of saying there are lots of, like, very healthy polyamorous relationships. The data that we do have, though, is limited about polyamory. Just like with kink, it's very limited. I would say research about polyamory, I'm not sure if it's more or less restricted, like, in terms of, I think it's hard to say. I feel like there's so many different ways of doing kink that the breadth of kink is probably less explored. But I feel like people who are studying polyamorous relationships rather than, like, swinging or something is probably less explored, even if it is, like, a more narrow field of possibilities. I would probably say it's not very, very explored as a relationship style or anything else if you experience it as an identity, orientation, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the research that we do have does suggest that, like, the average person who identifies as polyamorous has been doing it for, like, 5 years or, like, over 10 years. And depending on how many years they've been in, they have different average lengths of relationships. Most of them have one primary partner, and then they have a secondary partner that they've been with. Like, let's say if somebody's been with, like, a primary partner for 10 plus years, on average they have a secondary partner, or just a second partner at all, that they've been with for, like, 5 plus years. And then they maybe have a third relationship. Like, the average is, like, 2.5. Like, it's somewhere, like, depending on what gender or sexuality you're looking at, like, the average is, like, 2.6. You know, most people are not bopping around in polyamory or swinging or anything with, like, 6 partners. Like, it's normally, like, literally +1, and, like, maybe, because it's hard to find people you want to be with long term. Like, whether it's monogamy or polyamory, like, it's hard to find people that, like, live in your area, have similar life goals, have the similar values, have similar interests. Like, it's difficult. So you get people normally that have, like, they're not running around hooking up all the dang time. You know, people have that phase or will do that as part of their relationships. But for the most part, it's like pretty boring. It's not that exciting. But most people say they're like relatively satisfied in their open relationships and in their polyamory, and they're happy, they're well adjusted. There's no data to suggest that like polyamorous people are, I don't know, making up for a defect or something like that. Yeah, but it's difficult. A surprising number of people think you can't hang out one-on-one with anyone of the opposite sex at all if you're in a relationship. Yeah. I mean, this is something that I really value about polyamory and like open relationships, is that there's not as many like weird unspoken rules about socializing. Like, there's so much in monogamy, especially for people that are more anxiety prone, more jealous. They tend to have a lot more walls around certain like completely innocuous behaviors because of trying to manage their anxiety. Like, you know, they want all your passwords. They want to know your location all the time. They want to be able to randomly inspect your phone and read all your text messages and your email and your Facebook and whatever. Like, it's very invasive, but like to say no to that in a monogamous context and be like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. It's like, what are you hiding? What are you trying to hide from me? Like, there's an inherent level of suspicion around like trying to set personal boundaries. It's like, it's not that I'm trying to hide a relationship. It's that, like, it's weird that, like, because we're dating, you feel entitled to read, like, my text messages with my siblings, you know, like, my whole text history with all of my siblings. Like, that's invasive and it's personal. Not because of, like, a dating thing, but because, like, that's kind of fucking weird. Like, it just is. I'm sorry, at least to me. You know, other people can have different thoughts or feelings about that if they want to. But I think that it's weird. Or, like, again, like, any, like, you know, oh, like being out past a certain hour, like, oh, you're gonna go socialize with your coworkers for a drink after work? That sounds like going to a brothel. Like, what? No. Like, there's an inherent level of suspicion I think that a lot of people have around, like, you know, even if you had a friend, like if you're a dude and you have a female friend you've been with for like 10 plus years, you met like freshman year of high school, like they could literally be like, I'm a lesbian, and like people would still be jealous of that because, well, but she's still a woman, which is sort of sweet in a way, like, aw, like, you don't understand how this works, do you? But no, a lot of people just like, there's a lot of, and I think like, this is not to blame people who have those feelings. I think we grow up in a society that like nurtures that. I think a lot of people also have relationship histories where that kind of level of suspicion is like kind of trained into you, because a lot of people are not honest. They're not truthful. Like, people do cheat, and then they're like relatively high numbers. And so we're kind of taught to be paranoid because we feel like we have to be. So I understand why it happens. But in non-monogamy and in open relationships, like, there is less cheating, there is less infidelity, and what counts as that is generally like a higher bar, and so you can feel more comfortable like getting drinks with your, like, you know, opposite sex, whatever that means, coworkers. You can go and like hang out with your friend you've had since high school. You know, you can hang out with you know, you can be in groups, you can be in mixed company, and it not be like, ooh, you're behind, you've escaped from the harem veil, like, how dare you. Your polytime example made me giggle. Your time spaces are pretty spot on for me. 9 years primary, 8 years secondary, 6 years third partner, and 8+ years with the satellite. Yep. I would say, like, the average people I meet in my real life who do polyamory, like, either they're brand new within, like, the last year, or they've been doing it for, like, 5 to 10 plus years. But also, like, I'm sort of paraphrasing the literature that's out there about this, which is very limited, about, like, the average. I have a video where I've talked about this. It's, if you've seen my videos I've made about, like myths about polyamory, I reference the actual studies in there, but, like, generally speaking, that's sort of the timeline. I believe that if you can't trust your partner, you shouldn't be with them or in a relationship at all. Get some therapy. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, as harsh as it is to say, like, you know, maybe you're not ready for a relationship, get some therapy. I think if you are experiencing what I will call, how do I want to phrase this thoughtfully? Inappropriately high levels of jealousy that are not effective to act on and are destructive to the relationship, to make like a concern that you are altering your partner's behavior because of, that is something that's worth working through. And I think, you know, honestly, all the genders, everyone, we're kind of socialized to be jealous. And I've talked about this so many times before in videos, but like people are sort of taught to be jealous because like, ooh, if you're not jealous, then you like don't really care about the person. They're not really attracted to you if they don't feel jealous. And like jealousy is seen as a marker because it's sort of like this like tertiary marker of like protectiveness. You know, the protective man is a possessive man, and a possessive man is a jealous man. Does that make sense? Right? We idolize the protective man, and we see jealousy as like a signaler, not in like a biopsych way, but in like a, this is what we're taught is like a signal of this thing that we're really trying to get to is jealousy. But you can have a partner who is protective and is not jealous. If anything, jealousy makes you overreact to things. And like, y'all ever seen the thing where Andrew Tate's like, you know, I don't know, it's like he was fucking talking about like if you went to a concert and there was like a threat at the concert, like what would you, like why wouldn't you want to be with a man? Like it was something about like not letting your women go to a concert on her own or go with a girlfriend because she has to go with you because like what if there's a threat at the concert, because like you can't trust security guards to handle it. You need a man who's gonna like step in and like karate chop the guy in the neck, right? It's like, what are we talking about right now? Like I actually do not want my partner to get into a physical altercation at a fucking concert because like somebody looked at me funny. Like that's actually not an endearing trait in a partner. I want somebody who's like, I want a tactician, not a brute. You know what I mean? Like I think really when you, maybe this is me, like all women want different things, right? There's no such thing as like all women want this thing, because like people want different things. But I think more women than you would expect want the tactician over like the brute who acts first and thinks second. That's my take on that. That's my take on what women are attracted to. My 2 cents on that. Honestly, my mind space lately is that some people are doomed to not find anybody, and some people are able to find almost everybody, which seems nice, but it's probably a lot to do with. I mean, that's a very heavy topic to grapple with. Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I mean, that to me that sounds sort of deterministic. And I think some people are prone to think in deterministic ways that like, oh, this is just like fate. This is just what the universe is, your lot in life. And it's certainly, you do see people, what is it the manosphere believes in? Was it like is it 80-20, 90-10, whatever the fuck it is. 80-20 rule, I want to say. Maybe it's less than that. Somewhere in that ballpark. More than 50-50, less than 100-0. Somewhere in there. They talk about how, like, you know, certain like Chad men are gonna get all the women, and like certain really attractive women get the pick of whoever they want, and everyone else at the bottom is like scrounging for scraps. I think it has a lot of that has like far less to do with like genuine long-term like attraction or like healthy long-term relationships, and like the people who are willing to be like aggressive douchebags to like get a date, but like burn and turn the women that they sleep with. Like, I find that's really interesting in manosphere rhetoric is they talk about like finding hot women, but like most of the time it's like, wait, are you talking about having a healthy long-term relationship, or are you talking about fucking as many women as possible and like never seeing them again? And the longer you hear them talk, the more you realize like how fused together those two incompatible ideas are. Like, they don't really ever talk about having long-term sustainable relationships. They kind of just go, well, like, if you find the right woman and she's ready to be a trad wife, like, you don't really have to work that hard to keep her, is, like, kind of the underlying current of that. But it is hard to find people. I'd never seen any of Andrew Tate's videos, but yikes, the neurons weren't even present in his presence. Wow, that's a savage way of saying that, but yeah. There was not necessarily a lot of, like, fully articulated things. It was like weirdly paranoid. Like, not necessarily surprising. I think a lot of people like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, I think both because they consider it to be a sign of like manliness, but also like I think their brains are sort of like wired to be more neurotic. Like if we're thinking in terms of like big 5 personality attributes, right? I think they're both very high. on the neuroticism spectrum, which like I relate to because I'm also like very high in the neuroticism spectrum. Or at least I used to be, like, 10 years ago whenever I last took the Big Five personality test. But they say things that are like, this is only something that you would think about if you like live day to day in a state of like complete hypervigilance, which like Jordan Peterson makes sense. Grew up anxious, emotional kid, Cold War, constantly thinking about like the nukes being dropped, right? That makes sense. Andrew Tate, poor kid, single mom, somewhat present dad sometimes, probably kind of an abusive upbringing, grew up really poor, probably got bullied. I think actually he told a story at least one time where he got bullied. So like proactively hypervigilant, also probably has a fair amount of like brain trauma from doing contact sports. So there's also that as a factor there as well, too. Obviously, even if you have a TBI, it's not going to make you like Andrew Tate, but like it is a contributing factor sometimes. We gotta put that in the mix there. It's a potential thing to think about. But it's not surprising to me. It's just funny, like, because if like a woman was speaking this, like, they can speak in very paranoid terms about like, but what if somebody wants to like kidnap you when you're leaving a concert? Like, that's like completely valid hypothetical. But if you're a woman and you're like, I would pick a bear over a man in the woods. Like, if you're telling me I could either meet a random bear in the woods or a random man, I'm picking the bear. They're like, that's completely irrational. And it's like, well, you know how unlikely it is to be like kidnapped when you're leaving a concert in the middle of like a downtown metropolitan area in front of a huge crowd of people? Like, I don't know. I'm not really sure either party here is being fully rational, because like human beings generally aren't like fully logically rational, That's not a thing. Yes, Pareto. It's the Pareto principle. Thank you. There's a bunch of P words. They love talking about the P. Let's be honest. Their brains are always on the P. For me, it's a normal distribution. Some will just be on the far ends of it, but yes, I'm extra cynical right now. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think there is certainly some, I'm not sure what it is, but there is going to be some form of distribution curve. It could be like this. It could be bimodal. It could be unimodal. Just one big bell curve, There could be all kinds of distribution patterns that exist in human dating. I'm not sure what they are. And I'm not sure like how healthy it is to dwell on it either. I think anytime you're getting into thinking about things strictly mathematically as like a problem solving tool, like there's a tendency to like dwell on it and ruminate on it in a way that I think that can get into like, maybe that's not super healthy for our brains, But good questions. Oh my gosh, so many amazing thoughts. I love talking about this. Y'all are so thoughtful. So sad I missed your class. What do you think of the dungeon itself? So itself, I taught 2 classes. I taught my Aftercare for All class, and I taught my Pain Play for Non-Masochist class. Actually, I think even though I had a pretty big time restriction for both, I did a pretty good job of like pacing them at speed to be able to get through as much of the class material as possible, which I was very proud of, because the other classes I attended that weekend definitely had some time issues. I actually did not get to go down to the dungeon very often itself. I was a judge for the leather contest, and so the vast majority of my time itself was spent doing judging stuff. So like from like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., I was doing judging stuff. On Friday, it was like 9 to 1, and then it was like 9 to noon on Saturday, just to like be as honest as possible about it. And then on Friday night, it was like then again like 6 p.m. to like 9:30 p.m. And then on Saturday, it was 6 to like 11:30. So I was not really at the dungeon that much. I did go down for about an hour on Friday, and by that time it had really cleared out. It was pretty empty, and then I think it closed at like midnight. It closed at like midnight or 1 a.m. So like I didn't even get to stay for that long, because I think I went down because I went upstairs after I was done, and I was working on my presentation for like an hour or two. Like an hour and a half, maybe. I worked on it for an hour, and I spent 30 minutes getting ready to go to the dungeon. And by the time it went down, there was only like an hour left, so it was very cleaned out, I would say. I liked how they had the cross area, at least the first night they had it set up, because it was different people. Like, I think different groups were overseeing different dungeons. That was not clear to me. It sounded like there were different organizations that were, like, hosting the dungeon nights. Like, it wasn't... Self did not have their own DMs. It was organizations that had DMs, and then Self had people that were helping load in, load out the dungeon furniture. That's the sense I got for how they ran things, but I don't know. But the first night, they had like kind of a roped off area for the crosses. I thought was really good, just to like make it super clear, do not walk past these areas. The furniture quality I saw was like, you know, it was spanking benches, spanking horses. I thought it was relatively well laid out. They really had, it was a small dungeon. It was definitely smaller even than like Leather Rain's dungeon was, which is like not a particularly large dungeon. But I saw a good variety of people doing scenes. I imagine maybe you know about this, part of what you're getting to is there was a hard point incident. So in rope bondage, if you're doing suspension, you use something called a hard point to be able to rig the person, to be able to lift them off of the ground. There's a number of different ways to do this, different devices. There are several that are purpose-made and manufactured to be able to withstand the loads and the type of loading that is done in suspension bondage. There are other improvised rigs that are varying levels of quality. My sort of aside 2 cents that nobody's asking for is expecting good suspension equipment for rope bondage at a leather event is like expecting to find, I don't know, what's something that doesn't really make sense together? I don't know. Good macaroni and cheese at a Mexican restaurant. Like, can it happen? Yeah, but it's not really like what I would go there for. I would not expect that type of community to have the expertise necessary to be able to do hardport evaluations. If they were going to offer it, I would certainly expect them to like know what to look for and to select good equipment and to find an expert to be able to assess it for them before they put their stamp of approval on it. In the same way I would expect a Mexican restaurant to check a recipe for macaroni and cheese before winging it and just making some shit up. But yeah, actually maybe Mexican foods, like maybe a sushi restaurant would make more sense for that comparison there. But yeah, I did not dwell in that area. I saw it a little bit more on Saturday night. I very briefly got to walk around the dungeon on Saturday night. I saw some people do some suspension stuff on equipment that looked to me like stuff that looked familiar. There was a hard point that I was like, I kind of scratched my head at. Like, I was like, that looks a little strange. And the reason it looked a little strange and familiar at the same time was because apparently it was somebody had like kind of improvised something from like a bench press setup, which is not at all load rated for the kinds of things that we do in rope bondage or in suspension. So that was why it looked strange. I didn't see anything happen. I heard later on there were problems with it. And that even on the first night, I think somebody either did or almost tipped over in it. Like there was something that went wrong. I don't really know the details. I wasn't there. And then they closed it off for the rest of the night. And then some person from a dungeon crew came by, like allegedly tightened the bolts and like slapped it a little bit and gave it the stamp of approval and let people use it again. I do feel like that was inappropriate. I feel like, especially with like, and maybe people who don't do rope don't understand this. Because crosses, you get crosses that are a little funky. I've been to many a dungeon, including conventions, that have rickety-ass crosses at them, like St. Andrew's crosses. Like stuff that I would not trust if like a top was doing a really thuddy impact play scene, or there was a lot of movement, like that I would be like, maybe we need to reevaluate this, you know? That would definitely be a concern for me. But like I've never heard anyone ever like make a fuss about that before. Like people just kind of like in my experience when I've been to events or conventions that have like a rickety piece of furniture that's like not super stable, people just kind of like work around it and like don't really complain about the quality of the furniture, even if maybe they should. But with rigging and bondage, people take that shit like fucking seriously AF, because I mean, maybe it is more dangerous. I'm not sure if it literally is or not, but like there's certainly a perception of like heightened danger doing suspension versus like a stand-up scene where somebody's maybe like I was gonna say nailed to a cross, but that's probably not happening, you know, just cuffed into a cross. But yeah, that was, I think that was like, you know, if you're going to offer suspension equipment, that's a specialized kink. You should have people that know that and are able to evaluate it. There is a chance, and I don't know if this would actually happen, but like in the world of like listing as many possibilities as possible, there is a possibility that somebody was on the dungeon crew and they're like, I know about bondage, I can evaluate the hard point, and anyone else who's there that doesn't know about rope bondage is not going to be able to know for themselves whether or not they're lying or not, because they don't have the expertise themselves. And so they're trusting the other person who says they have expertise to actually have the expertise. And I think it's, you know, it's difficult when you're doing a kink convention. There are so many fucking kinks. I'm not sure I would expect somebody who's like even the head of an organization to know all of the risk profiles for every single different kink out there, because they're so numerous. I'm not sure any one person would like know in depth all of that stuff. Like that kind of seems like that's maybe asking too much for folks. I don't know. Yeah, I shudder to hear suspension and improvise in the same sentence. Yes, if you are improvising a suspension rig from weightlifting equipment, you need to, like, honestly, knowing how much it would cost for a piece of, like, honestly, even, like, good quality secondhand, like, weightlifting shit, like a power rack or something, like it would probably be cheaper to get like a portable purpose-made like tripod rig. Like if you're not saving a lot of money that way, unless you're like, I have one lying around and I want to spruce it up, you know, but that just seems like a terrible plan to me. There is an amazing organization in Atlanta that provides our furniture. Each play party were hosted by clubs, as you say. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think, I swear the Friday party ended at, like, way earlier. Maybe we just felt like it was ending. I feel like I was not there until 2, but maybe I was. Honestly, also, like, time zone differences. I might have also just been feeling like it was later, and maybe it really wasn't. But yeah, I'm not sure what the full story was there. It seemed risky. I also keep working to accept and love myself above everyone else, so that I can be okay being alone. Yeah. That's a big journey, but I think it's an important one, even if you do have a partner. Because even if you are with a partner and you haven't really, like, learned that yet, you can end up in a sticky situation with somebody who's, like, not treating you well. Maybe to say it generally. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced Andrew Tate is on drugs. His videos just scream, I have so much energy right now. I need to talk really fast and I want to fight. I mean, I've also seen that, like watching Aiden Ross and stuff too, when I've seen clips from them. I'm sure they're either all on like coke or lean or something. Like, that would not shock me in any way. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it does happen. People with a lot of money, not a lot of sense of self-preservation, tend to do things like that. I'm gonna get a clip for my hair. Give me 1 second. Okay, that's way better. Thank you. It's a dress. I got it secondhand. It's from Reformation. I love this pattern. I will definitely be looking to see if they make more things like it, because it's fantastic. Okay, let's get to some more questions. Thank you all so much. I've been looking into going to munches and meet and greets in my area on Fat Life. Also, hi Lexi. Hope you are doing well. I was bopping out to some Fall Out Boy when I was in the car, and it made me think about you. I was like, I hope Lexi's having a good day today. But I've been kind of turned off from it since everyone I've located seems to be almost 50, entirely 50 plus, and I'm in my mid 30s. Ooh, I mean, it sounds like you're maybe already doing this, but I definitely, if you have not looked for a Whippersnappers or a T&G event, I would look for one of those in your area. I would also look for, if you have a bunch of events, like let's say, I'll just like talk through this, I'll like open FetLife quickly and I can just like talk about what I'm doing. This is what I do if I'm looking for events on FetLife. There are lots of them in Portland to choose from. So I'm not sure if a situation is for you like, oh, there's no options at all, and like the options that are there, everyone's like 50 plus, or if it's like there's a ton of options, but they're all still the same, right? So like I'll go over to events from the homepage. I'll like type in my city, right? So Portland. I'll put in, you know, I have it in kilometers, I guess. I don't know if that's by default or what, if I can even change it to miles, but I'll say like 50 kilometers. And then I'll just like, oh, here's a discussion group. Here's a karaoke event. I'll like open up a bunch of tabs. Bippity boppity boopity. And then I will see, I'll look at the going section, and I can see for me, there's like some people in their 40s, a person in their 30s on like the yes list. And then like the interested in, I see some people in their 20s. I see some more 40s, 50s. 103 is probably not, or probably not a real age on there. There is some more mid-30s, lots of mid-30s. Honestly, I would say, depending on where you live, the average age I see is normally like mid-30s to mid-40s. Is like probably, in terms of like the mode of averages, 30s, somewhere in the 30s or 40s tends to be the most popular. So that's like one event. Click over to another one. Let's see if it's any different. Again, the like going RSVPs is like mostly 50s, 40s, etc. And then another 102. All right, so we got a shuttle going to the nursing home, I guess. Listen, they deserve to have fun. Where they can come. Some more people in their mid-20s, some early 20s, 40s, 30s, etc. So I kind of just like browse the ages, kind of look at the profiles. You know, is it just like, you know, tits and undercarriage? Is it, you know, faces? Is it, you know, what is it? Toys, lingerie? What am I seeing? What am I thinking? What's my initial impression there? That's kind of what I look for, like scanning specific events. But that would be what I would look for. I want to go to a bunch too. I want to meet more people in the community. I think my main barrier is social anxiety, but I want to try. That is such a common thing. If it depends on how much of an option you have. So hopefully for that, the other question of like people that are older, I would say especially like, I mean, this is probably more true if you're like 18, 19, 20. And I get wanting to meet people that are in the same like age you are, but being in the kink community, even when I was quite a lot younger and I was like 20 years old and like brand new to the community, I always socialized in groups that were very mixed age-wise, of people that were like 18 to 22 up to like 50 plus. And if you're not used to it, or like the only way that you ever like see people, you know, that are older than you is in like, oh, well, they're like my boss, they're my manager, you know, they're my parents' age maybe. Like it is a little awkward at first, but I think you'll realize if you go and socialize with people, like it's not really that weird to be like 32 and like socializing in a kink setting with somebody who's like 47 or somebody even who's like 50 plus. I think it can be uncomfortable if you're like, maybe you're like a 30-year-old, you know, female submissive and you're going alone and you're surrounded by like 50-year-old like male dominants. That's like a particular dynamic, but like I've had lots of good experiences socializing with like older female submissives or older male submissives, even in like mixed companies with male doms that are older. I've had no problems with that. Or at least not in like a group setting. Individually, different story, but group setting, it's been fine. And so yeah, I like, if there's no other option, I might just kind of scan through what the available parties are, maybe do some more Googling about local events and interests, maybe just go for the one that sounds the most interesting to you, go and try it, see who's there. And then if it doesn't feel right, don't go back, or like don't stay the whole time. Like that's also totally fine. As far as like the social anxiety of going to kink events, that's also like a very common thing. If you have options, if you're in a major metro area with lots of options to pick from, I really recommend going to events that have some kind of activity connected to them. It could be at a pinball arcade. It could be karaoke. It could be axe throwing. It could be fucking paintball. I don't give a shit. Whatever it is. Like, if it's a thing that you think you would like doing, it could be, I've seen tea nights. I've seen book discussions. I've seen painting stuff. I've seen yoga. I've seen, like, kind of whatever thing you might be. I've seen rock climbing is really popular. Hiking, walking groups, like all sorts of different stuff. There's, like a live art group. There's all different things, discussion groups. They're like, again, literally anything. There's stuff even with just like having coffee, right? Or like go somewhere to get a meal. I think that's sort of an activity, but I'm talking more like, you know, a thing you can do together, like a fucking mini golf, you know, anything like that. Anything that's kind of giving you activity to do. One, because if you're anxious, it's like the social equivalent of like being able to go to the snack bar, you know, like you get a chance to like, oh, even if you're not talking to anyone, you can do the activity and have a fun time. And maybe that gives you an easy way to like start socializing with people. So I like it for that reason. But also if you are feeling a little awkward, you can start to acclimate to the environment by like doing the activity that is set up for like the kink group to do. Things that are more newbie focused, newbie nights, taster events, those are also good options too if you're new, because likely everyone else is going to be new. And they're also more likely to include things like icebreakers or like get to know you type games, so that way you can like meet more people. So that's another option there as well. I feel like that is much easier to find other kinky people at events. Yeah. Foot discussions. What did I say? Food and like discussion groups. Probably not feet. Probably not feet happening at the same time there, to be honest. I've been wanting to go to a munch. Yeah. Okay. I think I just answered that one. Yeah. It's a hot one out there. I get that. I've actually been feeling a little like, I don't know why. Ever since I started, like, I have an arm implant. I have the Nexplanon implant. And I've noticed that, like, now whenever I get a period, I get nauseous. Like, that never has happened to me before. But for some reason now, whenever I have a period, if I'm sitting down, I get nauseous. Like, what the fuck is up with that? I think it's the inflammation. I think there's some inflammatory response happening with that. But, like, it's like, I never feel, like, sick, but it's, like, casual nausea. Level 2 nausea. I don't know what's going on there. It's weird. All right, see you later, Lexi. Go lie down. Feel better soon. What is up? I'm having a great time. It's very hot. We're going to probably answer questions for like another half an hour, and then I'll still answer questions and talk, but we're going to do a little like get ready with me moment. We'll do a little bit of that. I do love my water bottle. I need to honestly to replace it. It's been through a lot. And it doesn't really fully seal anymore, but it's a Takia. It's my motivational, it's my Praise Kink 60-ounce water bottle. My Praise Kink water bottle. It says, "You got this." I did not buy it for the phrases. I honestly thought the phrases were kind of cringe, but honestly, I mean, everyone needs a little Praise Kink now and then, you know? Ginger chews are really nice. I really need to go and like get some, but I never think about it when I'm at the store. I never think, oh, I should grab some ginger chews. If I write it down, I'll remember it, but I haven't remembered to write it down so I can remember it when I'm at the store, which I think that makes it sound like I'm really forgetful, but I'm not. Like, I don't ever go to the grocery store and be like, oh crap, I forgot 3 things. Like, I'm normally very mindful about like errand running and getting groceries. I very rarely forget something that's actually important, but like when it's something that's low on the priority list that I don't need immediately, it kind of goes into my head. I don't really need it, so I don't write it down on the list, and then like I want it and then I don't have it, you know? But candied ginger is like also a great thing to have in a toy bag, a little aftercare thing. Some people get nauseous or dizzy after play, especially if you've been doing anything with like sensory deprivation and movement, like blindfolding someone and having them walk around or like spin around and do funny shit for your entertainment. They can get dizzy, and having ginger is like a good thing to have on hand for sure. I've been to a Trader Joe's like literally twice. I don't know I've heard everyone say that like, oh, Trader Joe's is so good, but I've like never like intentionally shopped there in like a couple years. All right, so many good questions, y'all. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get into some more, shall we? Let's do that. Went to my first munch last week. A lot of great people. Plus, first munch drink Pride Month. Ooh, that's also a good thing there for sure. Going again Saturday evening. Thanks for leading me there. You are so welcome, Dark Desires. I really appreciate you saying that. You did all the hard work. You found the munch. You went there. You socialized. You talked to people. But have a good time on Saturday. That sounds super exciting. Whenever you find good people, it's a fun time. Rose asks, hi Evie, I'm new to attending munches. Local community finally exists. Whoop whoop. Awesome. Do you have any suggestions for conversation starters or topics to get to know people that are appropriate for that type of event? This is like partly why I suggest to people like wearing or having on your person like something that's like an interest you have, a band you really like, a video game you like, a nerd thing you're into, a keychain, a little doodad, a t-shirt, a fucking scarf, whatever, just to give people a way to start a conversation with you. Normally if I'm at a munch, I gotta be honest, I'm like, because I'm surprisingly introverted, more than I think people expect me to be because I do this for a job. But like when I am by myself and in introversion mode and going to a munch, I don't really know anyone there. Normally I will listen to other people talking and I will try to find a way to like insert myself into the conversation with like a question or a comment or like, oh, by the way, like me too. Like, when I was at Self, I spent quite a bit of time outside in the cigar lounge in the evenings, and I mostly had people start conversations with me, but there was somebody that started talking when I came in, or like they had come in after I'd been there for a while, excuse me, and they were talking about, well, I said the details, I probably shouldn't really share them, but they were talking about something that was like a personal story of something that made them like kind of scared, but they wanted to do it anyway. So like I volunteered my own story of like a time where I'd been through something similarly emotionally of like, oh yeah, this is the kind of thing I do with my partner sometimes. It always makes me cry when I do it, but like it's worth it. So I try to like either like relate to someone through something that they're talking about, like if they're sharing a personal experience, like not in a way to like make it about me, but to be like, hey, I get that, like I've been through a similar thing too, and it's funny, we can kind of like relate over that. But usually I try to like compliments are always like a good way to wedge something in there, you know, if you like in a genuine way. Don't just say it to say it, but like if you like their shoes or like their shirt, their outfit, like something like don't compliment their like physical appearance that they can't help but have. Like, there is a difference between saying your hair looks really great and, like, I love your hairstyle. Because hairstyling takes effort and intention and time. Just being like, wow, your hair is so beautiful. I haven't ever seen hair like that. Like, first of all, that can get into racist territory kind of quickly. But also, like, they can't help the fact they were born with red hair, right? If they're a natural redhead, they've probably heard that a bajillion times. But being like, wow, I love your braid. I've always wanted to learn how to braid hair, but I'm so like useless at it, you know? Then maybe don't put in anything that's like self-degrading, like, you know, don't put in a derogatory comment towards yourself in there, but like you can be like, wow, I love your fishtail braid. That's so cool. I've always wanted to learn how to do that. Like that's like, you recognize what it is. You recognize the effort, and then you have something you can start to talk about, which is like why they picked a braid, how often they've done it for. And it's maybe not the best conversation ever, but like it's something you can start to talk about, you know? I think there's also like the standbys of like, you know, like how long you've been going to this munch for, how long have you been in the community for, you know, those sorts of types of questions, and you can talk about your experience and what you're here for. Maybe they can tell you like stories from the event before, that kind of thing. But it's hard to know what to do. I'm definitely more of a follower when it comes to that. I don't generally like volunteer a lot at first, but you know, that's my thing. I'm not afraid. I'm afraid. Oh, darn. I'm not that I'm not afraid. I'm afraid to go alone to a munch, but not for age reasons, for autism reasons. I don't like going to new places where there will be strangers and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I think for me that goes back to I really like activity-focused social events, like a moderated discussion group or, something with a game associated with it, pinball, axe throwing, darts, pool, foosball, air hockey, adult arcade, mini golf, something with like a structured activity, even karaoke. I think those are really useful for that setting. It might also be useful to know that a lot of people in the community are neurodivergent. A lot of people in the community are autistic, and that's something that, some areas will have like a neurodivergent focused munch. Not very many of them, but some definitely do. I would maybe look for, ideally, a munch that has an activity with I would say under 30 people RSVP total. Both not going and going combined on FetLife, 30 people or fewer. That would be what I would look for as a starter event. And also it depends on you, right? I don't know you. I'm not sure what you would find to be a comfortable environment, but I would certainly ask about the environment of the munch, right? There's a huge difference between going to a munch at a casual tea place versus a bar versus a brewery on a busy weekend, outdoors versus indoors. Is it going to be really busy and bustling? Is it going to be more calm and low key? And different people are going to feel more comfortable in different environments. Some people are going to feel more comfortable in the more busy environment because they feel like it's not really drawing attention to them and they can kind of be in the background more easily. Whereas other people are going to feel more comfortable being in kind of more the relaxed, casual, quiet vibe of a tea house or a coffee shop. So it depends, but look at your options for sure there. Workshops, yes. Workshops are great too because you know what to expect. Yes. That's another, I really honestly, and maybe this is just where I live now, I feel like I see far fewer in-person workshops than I used to as an event option. It's almost always munches, dungeon parties. You don't see quite as many discussion groups and workshops, but if something interests you and it's a thing you want to learn about, a workshop is a great way to meet people and have a structured event to hey, you're there to learn, but beforehand, maybe a little bit during the class and afterwards, you can meet people, maybe learn some names, meet a presenter. That's another really good option too. Yeah, it's very common, to be nervous about going to a munch, to have anxiety, to be neurodivergent. All that's very common in our community. I talked to somebody about this at the convention last weekend, and I feel in my estimation, depending on how you construct what it means to be neurodivergent, I'm going to say probably at least 20% of our community is neurodivergent. At minimum, probably more than that. Again, depending on how you construe what accounts to what counts as neurodivergent, right? If you're including any kind of PTSD, brain injuries, concussion history, the number is going to be a lot higher than that, but bare bones, probably 20%. It's very common. Yeah, tea house or coffee shops, probably my favorite setting. I've been to munches before that are at busier bars and stuff, and they're packed, and I do not enjoy them. They're not my favorite. I just feel really overwhelmed by them. They're not really fun environments for me, so I don't go to them. It's easy. I don't know what Rule 34 is, so I'm going to say no. And I also don't know what Has Been Hotel is, or The Amazing Digital Circus, or Hell of a Boss. I think I know what Sonic... I don't know what Sonic.exe is, but I do know what Sonic is. I understood 10% of that question, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what that is. I would imagine DID is probably included in the neurodivergence category, generally speaking. Not that I'm like the authority on that, but my intuition is that it's probably included in that. Question. I am a switch, currently negotiating with a femdom. She wants the title mommy. And to me, that seems weird. Is that just how some doms identify the protective and caring part of being a dom? I mean, okay, so one, you're allowed to have whatever feelings about that you want, and if you're not comfortable, you do not have to call anybody any kind of title, right? So I especially, I think for, if that's not a kink you've really played with before, like, I probably wouldn't, like, I'm not really comfortable, like, for a brief period of time I experimented with it, but, like, I'm not really comfortable calling partners daddy or mommy. That's, like, not really my kink. I get that. I get why people are into it, and that's not to say that I think people who do that are, like, bad or wrong or, like, I don't know, trivializing incest or something, right? Like, I get it as a kink. It's not really something that's mine. But for me, I don't really get it. So if I have partners that are into it, I'll be like, yeah, but I don't really want to go there. You know, not really my thing. So you don't have to call anyone anything you don't want to. What it means to be mommy or to be called mommy or daddy is very different to different people. I think especially with femdoms, I've met a lot of femdoms who like being called daddy because of like the gender fuckery, the power of it, you know, subverting expectations. With mommy, a lot of it that I've seen is very roleplay focused. Like it's role-playing being mommy and being like mean mommy, evil mommy, sadist mommy. A lot of the mommies I know are very mean. Like, I haven't really met a lot of nice, cuddly caregiver mommies now that I think about it. But a lot of mommies are more on the mean side, so it could be that, maybe a way of, you know, putting a role-play framework to their interests in kink. It could also be more just that's how their caregiver side manifests, and maybe that is the word that resonates with them. But the fun thing is that you can ask them what they mean, and they can probably tell you, like, for me, I like being mommy because of this, this, and this. It could be anything from they think it's a really fun word and they like to kind of play around with it, all the way over to like, you know, my kink is like caregiver role play, and this is a really strong part of my identity. And like it can be more literal, it can be more for fun, it can be the subversion of it. It really depends on the person. Had the same problem with the dom who preferred the title daddy. I mean, I guess I don't know if it's a problem, but it depends on your perspective, I guess. But like a lot of people do, like, especially femdoms, I find, get very creative with the terms they like to use to refer to themselves. And this could be a case of that. It could be very straightforward. But you won't really know until you talk to them. But it is not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all for people to call themselves mommy or to take that as like their main title that they use for self-identification in the kink community. Yeah. It is definitely a thing. I will say that. All right. I'm going to do one more question here, and then I'm going to grab my makeup-y stuff. Self is Southeast Leatherfest. That's correct. We don't have ACs here in residential buildings as a norm, mostly businesses, so we're burning up. You'd think they'd make it mandatory by now, as the humidity is as bad, if not worse, than in Florida. That's wild, honestly. I'm not surprised they haven't made ACs mandatory, because you gotta save money, I guess. Although, like, if you're doing a whole apartment complex with, like, 800 units, is it really that expensive to do AC in the building? I would think probably not. It is inside, yes. Outside, leather in June in Atlanta, probably not the best idea. But inside, air-conditioned, 60 degrees, just fine. But maybe not 60, that's maybe a little cold. Maybe 65, 67, somewhere in that general vicinity. Do you know any good ABDL educators or YouTubers? I'd like to learn more about how to connect to my little side. There is one channel that I follow. This is not necessarily a personal endorsement, because like I don't really like know them on a personal level. So take this with a grain of salt, obviously. Let me see if I can find them. I don't subscribe to them. I don't know when the last time they posted was. Where are they? It's apparently been a minute since they posted. I am still subscribed to them, aren't they? It's called like something ABDL, I'm pretty sure. I'm not subscribed to like that many people. Did I like unsubscribe to them for some reason, or did I get unsubscribed? I might have like at some point been unsubscribed to their channel for some reason, because now I'm not seeing them at all. Oh no, here we go. So there is a channel. They haven't posted for a minute, it looks like a month ago. They're really regular normally, so I don't know what's going on there. But it is called at Diaper Perv, and it is a lifestyle ABDL, mostly focused on the diaper side of that, I believe, couple, and they have lots of videos, like so many videos about like diapers and book recommendations and like different events they go to and sexuality and making scenes and like all this stuff. So that would be one, like they have a lot of videos. Again, not necessarily a personal endorsement, but they have a lot of videos. Unfortunately, and if anyone knows a content creator who makes content about this subject that you would like to recommend, please put it in the chat or maybe down below if you're watching a recording of this. But it's hard. Like I've known a lot of people over the years who have either previously made videos who are not around anymore, or who've made like one or two and then like never made a YouTube video again, or only make them like very, very, very sporadically. So it's hard to find creators in like, you'd think especially how popular it was like even a couple years ago, you'd think there'd be more people making videos about it, but it's just not something that apparently leads to longevity on YouTube as a platform. I don't know why. But yeah, that would be the one that I know of. I meant that it was a problem with it. I wasn't comfortable with it. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. Like, you don't have to like anything, you know? Is what it is. Alrighty, let's get to a couple, I guess, I don't know, does that count as a question? Yeah, I'm going to grab, actually, it is almost 7:30. I'm going to grab some makeup stuff real quick, and then we'll be right back, and we'll talk about more questions, and I will put on some makeup. I know, the name is, like, pretty intense. Diaper Perv. Like, honestly, I'm shocked that YouTube allows them to have that name. It is what it is on the label. You know, you're not going to be surprised by that content at all. You know what you're getting into there for sure. I don't actually know if I have a list of like YouTubers specifically that I recommend, like YouTube channels, but if you go to my home page, if you go to ev.com, that's not the link, youtube.com/c/evlupine, and then I think if you go to, I know I have a section where I have, if you go to the bottom, if you go to my homepage, go all the way down, there's like different playlists. There's like videos, BDSM information, pet play, and like CGL, BDSM 101. Very bottom below that, there's a featured channel section on there, and I have a bunch of different people on there. I have like What's the Safe Word, I have Morgan Thorne, Hannah Witten, Jillian Keenan, different bondage channels, Master Arcane's channel. I've got kind of like everyone that I can think of that I like watch pretty regularly who makes videos. Or at least currently. I know Hannah Witten doesn't really make videos too much anymore, and Morgan Thorne's pretty spotty these days. Though Morgan Thorne does still do educational stuff on the internet, like classes. So she did an aseptic technique for medical play class, actually, like yesterday or maybe yesterday in the afternoon. So she's still around, but maybe not so much on YouTube. But that is what I'd go to if you're looking for featured channels. I don't, not everyone I recommend is on there, but like a pretty good chunk of people are on there. So that's a good place to start for sure. All right, BRB real quick. I'm going to be grabbing some makeup stuff, and then we'll be doing some makeup. All right, we're back. Okay, I need to flip that around, actually. I think this is probably, if it's not too, I don't think it's causing it to defocus. That's probably a good spot for it. All right, I will read some questions here, and then I'm going to get started on doing some makeup-y things, and let me know if anything changes. I'm okay, talking about the open relationships thing again. Yes, the best part about relationships is that we get to pick how to do them. Polyamory is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Yeah, I think, different people have very different experiences of open relationships, as is the case with all relationships. But also, like, monogamy doesn't work out very often, too, right? Like, before you even get to the point of marriage, like, 90+% of relationships do not lead to, like, lifetime partnerships or marriage. And then even if you get to the point of doing marriage, like, half of them end in divorce. So, like, if you're just going on, like, relationship longevity, that matters way less than, like, people being in, like, relationships that make them happy. I think it's, like, important to keep in mind that you are actively getting to choose a thing that you want to do for yourself and not because you feel forced into doing it. What's the, it's Stag Vixen. What is that? Also, I'm just doing, this is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh tinted moisturizer. I'm just going to go in with that. It's super, super light, which is why I love it. I don't even know if you guys are really going to be able to see a difference. But it just gives kind of, I actually don't know. Can I tell if I look on the viewfinder? It's got a little bit of a tint change, I guess, but it's kind of evens everything out. This is like my go-to for, especially when my skin's being nice to me. But yeah, so I have a video about it. Stag Vixen. It's a very interesting, I don't know, sub-genre of BDSM. It's kind of like inverted, different cuckolding, right? So, like, cuckolding stereotypically is like femdom, male submissive, humiliation. You're doing it because, your penis is inadequate and your woman, your wife, your dominatrix, whoever, is, like, not satisfied, could never be satisfied by you anyways because, you're just inadequate. And so they go out and they have, intercourse or do whatever with other people. Honestly, oftentimes, even within that, it sounds like that would be, like, completely something that the woman would lead, but very oftentimes it's the cuckold is, like, the one who's, like, really pushing for that relationship style. And this is just a NARS concealer. It's just a little travel size one. And stag vixen is the opposite of that, or the inverted version of that, and that the stag is a male dominant and the vixen is a female submissive. And sort of maybe the most average case of that, like the motivation behind it, is you have a male dominant who's like kind of like sharing his submissive female partner with, you know, other people, because like it's also for his like sexual pleasure usually, that like, you know, I can order you to do things with other people and like they can see how good you are at oral or whatever, right? So instead of it being about like humiliation and not measuring up, it's about like, I'm so good and I'm such a secure, you know, alpha dominant partner that you can see other people with my permission because I permit it, and because like it's arousing to me and it's a turn on to know that like you're getting, you know, you're doing things with other people besides me. So that's kind of the long and the short of it, more or less. But it's something that people enjoy playing around with. I think from a power exchange perspective, it's so interesting because it's very much not like what a lot of people expect. So that's why, I mean, I don't personally enjoy, to be clear. I'm not like, I don't do like stag vixen stuff on a personal level myself, but from a intellectual perspective, I find it to be interesting. So we're just doing some blushy stuff. This is all probably going to melt off, but you know, we got to put in the effort just initially just to do it, but yeah. How we looking? Zoom in. That's pretty good, actually. Honestly, I feel like the hotter the weather is, the better this works. Like, I actually should probably replace it and get a new one, but it's my favorite tinted moisturizer because it's actually my color. I always think of the shapeshifter meme when I see makeup stuff, which is rare, of course. Yeah, that's probably true. Oh, I got this when I was in Canada briefly. I didn't have any blush, so I just bought this. It's Marcel Cream Blush. I think this is, you can probably, like, L'Oreal probably makes a similar one. It's raspberry. I usually get kind of like a berry rose color is normally my wheelhouse, like a warm berry rose. And this is the Intuition Inner Glow Cream Pigment by Rituel de Fil. I have had this tape closed. The compact is completely broken. Honestly, I will buy a new one and see if they fix the packaging, but every single one of these breaks the same way. Like you can see on the back side right there, a little piece of plastic that's holding what there used to be a pin here that was the hinge for the clamshell, and a little piece of plastic always breaks off. Very frustrating. I actually kind of need a napkin to clear up my eyebrows and my lips. There's also the hot wife dynamic, which is very similar in terms of, sharing is caring. Yes, hot wifing is also similar. There's also sort of a gendered component to it, like with terms like stag and vixen. I wish there were more like gender neutral terms. You know, you could do like, I guess it would be, it's Todd? Todd is a male fox, I think. Doe and Todd. That sounds like you're talking about a couple. That sounds like, oh, Doe and Todd down the street. Which maybe is good for subtlety reasons. But yeah, there's that. I'm going to put on, this is a lip plumper. This is the Dior lip, whatever, some insane name. It's just a lip plumper. Oh, God. I feel like it's a good, like, My Lips But Better color. So I wear it as a base pretty often. It does tingle, but it's not super tingly. Honestly, tingling lip glosses, underutilized kink tool. Next time you're doing a forced femme thing, or like a cross-dressing thing or something, or humiliation scene with a male sub, get, like, I think Rihanna, the Fenty Beauty lip plumper, the original one, I've heard is, like, very intense, very, very tingly. So if you want to do a little of that. It's lip safe, which is always good. It's intended to be worn on the lips, which we want with our chemical play. But that's a fun one I like. This is underutilized. Plus, comes in so many colors. You can get hot pink. You can get holographic sparkle. You can get gold. You can get regular tones. You can get raspberry, rose, whatever colors you like. And I like the possibilities of that. It's very, very fun. Computer generated littles. Oh, CGL. No, there's no computer generated in there as far as I know. A surprising number of people. Yeah, okay, I think I talked about that one. What is a cage bondage? That's bondage where you put someone in a cage. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory in general. I'm going to do some nail stuff. This is... If you have anything going on with your nails at all, even if you don't, please, look, here's my nails up close. Proof is in the pudding, right? This repair mode by OPI is the best bond building nail care thing I have ever used in my life, and I've tried many, many, many of them. It is fantastic. It's so easy. You can get it at Ulta, you can get it at Sally Beauty, you can get it from a lot of drugstores because it's OPI. It's the best thing I've ever used for my nails. I will never not use it unless I find out that, I don't know, they do something, there's some kind of horrible ingredient in it that's, destroying the planet, specifically in some bizarre way. I would consider not using it anymore, but it's my favorite nail thing ever. And it really works, so I like to use this. You can use it when you first start using it, use it twice a day, but then after that you can use it like once a day and it's really good. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's my favorite. I did break a nail with my suitcase, so I have one nail that's missing. That's really, really bothering me. But honestly, it didn't even break, it didn't break that far down. There's still some white. But you gotta be careful with suitcases. They're tricky. If I'm a lesbian, does that mean it's vixen and vixen for me with that dynamic? I think that's probably, you could say vixen and vixen. I think that would make sense. Obviously with any of this, you have to explain to the people you're doing stuff with, what your relationship dynamic is, but I like that. Vixen and Vixen. Honestly, it sounds kind of like a law firm name. Welcome to Vixen, Vixen, Vixen and Vixen Law Firm. There was when I lived in Virginia, there's a law firm. I don't know if they're just in Virginia, if it's national or what, but I'd always see commercials for an Allen and Allen law firm. It's a real law firm. Actually, before we do anything else, I do need desperately to pluck my eyebrows, so we're gonna... Speaking of beauty being pain, this is very far away for me to be plucking my eyebrows, but it is what it is. Do they really plump? I've never tried because I like my palette and don't want it bigger. Some of them more so. It depends on the one you buy. I find for me, it doesn't give, this one I'm wearing, the Dior one, is not it's not crazy. It's not a massively, it doesn't give you duck lips or anything. I feel like it's more of it's a good line filler. It makes your lips look more hydrated and more full, but it doesn't necessarily make your lips go whoosh, it doesn't, doesn't blow them up necessarily, The disadvantage of having dark eyebrows is the second you grow a single hair, it's extremely visible, which is very, the new Simply Nailogical. Oh, is it good? I basically I don't even really paint my nails anymore because this repair mode works so well, I don't even bother. I'm a big fan of Dazzle Dry. It's the polish I normally use. But they don't have the widest color selection ever, but I feel like it lasts a really long time. I've never tried anything from Simply Nailogical. Is that it keeps defocusing. I'm gonna try to vaguely keep it in focus. I'm not gonna try to have these be the most precise brows ever. I feel a little rough cut. You guys probably can't see a single eyebrow hair, but that's fine. Allen still exists. I love the fact that at some point they're gonna have to find a replacement Allen. At some point an Allen is gonna retire, and then what are they gonna do? They're just gonna find anyone with the last name Allen and make them a partner in the law firm? They're gonna just go to Allen, and Allen? That doesn't have the same impact. They're gonna do nepotism, hire a son? What's gonna go on there? What's the legacy? How do we keep the law firm going? That's what I want to know. That's the drama I want the 411 on. Best law firm name in the UK is one called Dow Cheatin' and Dow Cheatin' and How, I assume. That's quite the combo there. You have to wonder, do they know what's going on? Do they get the joke? Maybe. They probably do. I feel like lawyers are either like sticks in the mud or like constantly drunk and very funny. Not really a lot in between there. So is that like a one-sided open relationship? I guess, yeah. I mean, you can see, maybe by default, like in the base description, I would say that it's one-sided. Like, there's nothing inherent in it that says that it's open on both sides. But you can definitely have a stag-vixen relationship that's open on both sides. That's the fun thing about kink, is like you get to do with it whatever you want. There's no way to... You gotta just do eyebrows in silence, I guess. I don't know, I've never really... I feel like I've chatted with people while doing my eyebrows before, but it normally doesn't turn out well. Alright, I'm gonna call that good. That's cleaned up enough. Deal with it. We've been in business since 1910, wow. I mean, listen, except for the UK, that seems like not very old. For the US, that would be old. For UK, that's new. That's a recent. It's a recent company. Okay, more questions. Yes, I know that Simply Nailogical was a YouTuber, and she's got like a nail company. I'm aware of like who it is. I've never tried any of their products though. This might be off topic, but watching your videos has me really considering trying polyamory because of how weird my sense of romantic attraction is. I want to date all of my friends all the time. Well, I mean, hey, you know, if that, you know, you can, it's never a permanent choice. You can try polyamory and then, you know, try a few relationships, see how they work out, try the dating thing, and then, like, you know, maybe you just decide it's not for you, and that's totally fine. There's no harm in trying it. Just like kink, right? You can try kink or try specific kinks, and you can be like, yeah, this is my thing now. Or you can be like, this is not my thing. I'm going to go back to being vanilla. I'm going to go back to being monogamous. Depending on where you live, it can be easier or harder to find polyamorous dates. Like, if you're on the West Coast, in like any city, basically anywhere, you can probably find people. Alright, this is the new pencil eyeliner I'm trying out. This is the Clinique Quick Liner for Eyes Intense. So this is what we're using. I always get the size I'm supposed to use mixed up. It's pretty good. I think it lasts pretty well. I do have it will transfer sometimes on this eyeball because this eye is a little bit more deep set than this one is. Because eyes are weird. This is part of the reason I don't normally use pencil eyeliner. Alright, it's not the finished look. I'm not just doing this. We are going to smudge it a wee bit. I think the smudger is like okay. I feel like it kind of drags it around more than anything else, but you know, it works well enough. Plus, let's be honest, this isn't gonna get smudged anyway on its own. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? From the heat, you weirdos. Okay. First of all, I'm a pure angelic being, and I would never do or say anything that is an innuendo on purpose. How dare you ever suggest otherwise? How dare you mar my good virginal name? That's like vaguely symmetric, whatever. Have you noticed any general differences in people on FetLife since you first joined? I haven't been on it for long, but I have heard discourse of it being different. The main thing I'm currently hearing from people is like complaining, oh my god, there's so many people on here advertising their OnlyFans. The whole website's being ruined by people advertising their OnlyFans. I gotta be honest, I have like over 1,000 friends. I have never, to my knowledge, seen or interacted with an account that was ran by somebody solely on there to promote their OnlyFans. There's always been people on the website who have used it to promote pro-dom work, selling panties, custom clips, their live streaming, custom content of any description you can possibly imagine, in person, in real life, or otherwise. So people advertising on FetLife is not new. I think on FetLife you definitely curate your own experience based on your friends list and where you choose to go on the website. I think if you're going to be browsing like Kinky and Popular, which is like what people use to try to go viral, like you're going to see people that are trying to promote their content because that's like the whole point of going kinky and popular and being on the front page is like a lot of people see you. So like if you're going on there, yeah, you're going to see people. But like if you're just connecting with people who live locally and are like genuinely interested in kink, like you're going to meet real people. So I think you kind of curate your own experience. I definitely had a very specific experience. Being on the website when I was younger and I was first on there because I was in college, and so most of the people I saw that were in my local community were other college students. I don't know if my first impression would have been different if I had lived in a different town or, you know, at the same period of time, right? Or if I lived somewhere else or like if I was a different age, I don't know. But I definitely met a lot of people that were, like, local, even though I was in a small town. I think it has shifted in maybe some similar, though less intense ways as Facebook has shifted, where a lot of people kind of, like, log in, they check for events, and they log out. There is definitely, like, less, I would say, like, consistent activity, consistent, like, long conversations, or, like, longer group threads. I think people kind of more log in, do something, check messages, and log out fairly quickly. But overall, I think the website is like largely the same. I would say they have added a lot of new privacy features that make it a lot more comfortable to use. Event RSVPs is like a brand new one they just changed. Like you can now hide like which event you're RSVP'd to, and I think that's a really, really good safety feature for people. Like if you know you have like a stalker, maybe an ex or like vanilla ex or kinky ex that could be following you on FetLife, but you still want to show you're going to events, or you want to bookmark them for yourself, basically, you can up the privacy there. I see that honestly has been the main change, is there's way, way more privacy stuff on FetLife than there used to be, and I feel like it's all largely been positive for the most part. I've never tried coal liner specifically. Like, either, like, specifically, like, authentic coal or, like, the stylist style of, like, a big, fat, chunky liner. I feel like this is, like, a good size for me where I can be more precise, or I can be more, smoky with it if I want to be smoky with it. I think, actually, with it being warmer, the pencil's actually performing a little bit better for me than it normally does. Because I imagine the pencil itself is a little bit softer texture-wise than it normally would be. Alright, let's... Oh, actually, I really like that. I think, do I need to touch anything up? Maybe a little bit. This, inner corner right here. On this side. I think that one got a little away from me there. This was on sale at Ulta a couple weeks ago, and I bought it. I really like that. That looks good. Okay. We're rocking it. We're rolling with it. Okay. I always like do the caps the wrong way around. I think that's probably good. Eyebrows? Little eyebrows, maybe? We'll touch the eyebrows. Oh, Honestly, I've been a bit afraid to join the site since I didn't know if I'd meet people in my age group, but maybe my fears are a bit unfounded considering my area is pretty lively. I mean, you definitely will meet people of all ages. As I've said, I think the average age, I mean, at events, like physically in-person events, the average age is probably like mid-30s to 40s. But on FetLife, you see all different people. I'm like 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. You see young people. You see people that are, still going to college. You see all kinds. So it really depends. But I think it's not just like only old people. I think people that like have a grudge against FetLife for whatever reason will say stuff like, "Oh, FetLife is just full of like old people," and "Oh, you can't, like, no one's real on there anymore." And it's like, I don't know what experiences you've been having, but like that's not been my experience at all. I don't think that that's true. Plus, it is still like the main way to find events. So like, kind of whether you like it or not, if you want to find events, that's what you got to do. Is what you got to do, And I think especially if you hide your age, hide your location, set everything to friends only, you're gonna, check your messaging settings. It's very unlikely outside of like a troll interacting on a public post, which I don't recall seeing too much on like earlier FetLife. I will say maybe that's a difference. I've seen more like obvious trolling than I used to. Though again, that could just be a difference of like me noticing it more, me being able to recognize it as being trolling, or like, maybe it is actually just like there's more trolling on the website. I feel like honestly, if you ever talk about anything on FetLife that's like related to like a race or gender issue and you openly boast about it, it's probably going to attract people that are looking to troll. So that's probably something that's different. That's worth noting. But honestly, if you make everything really private and like friends only, like it's very unlikely you're going to have anyone like interact with your stuff that you don't want to have them interact with. You wouldn't want them leaving their peanut gallery comments. Whoa! Mascara in my hair. Warning, mascara in hair. All right, let's get to another couple questions. I just want to be careful since I'm new to the scene and I don't want to get seen as easy to take advantage of. I mean, the easiest way to avoid that when you make an account is set your age to 99. Set your age to 99. Do a profile picture that's not of your face, or honestly, maybe even of your body. Just have it be of like some toys or something, and have your location be Antarctica. That's going to solve, and then have your message inbox only be open to friends. That is going to solve like 95% of your potential issues just with that. Of course, things can still happen. I'm not going to try to make it sound like it's flawless from that point onward, but it's going to help a lot in my personal opinion. Okay, I'm going to put on, I have this like nail cream. It's called Hard as Hoof. It's kind of makes your nails shiny. I got this secondhand. Or did somebody send me this as a gift? It was one of the two. I have another nail cream that I got secondhand. I was kind of dabbing on my nails. It just makes them shiny. It's kind of like giving them like a buff top coat. But it's got, I think there's collagen in it, which is why I bought it secondhand, because it's not vegan. A lot of nail creams have collagen in them, which is derived from animals, so. There is plant, like, air quotes, collagen, but it's not really collagen. If you see plant collagen, it's not real. That doesn't exist. It's a lie. It's a lie based on marketing. Was there ever a muncher event that you just had to nope out of? Oh, yeah. Oh, God, a couple. I don't think there's ever been any I've, like, gone into and, like, left immediately because vibes were bad. A long time ago, this is sort of a low level of this, I did go to a munch at a bar that was very, very, very busy. And I left after, like, a relatively short amount of time. I was maybe there for an hour, and I just, like, I couldn't talk to anyone because it was too loud, and, like, it was, like, too cramped. I just didn't feel, like, I didn't really feel like I could actually socialize in that environment. I didn't really like it. I've definitely gone to venues before or parties and then not gone back because I felt like the vibe was off. That's happened a couple times. Like, I usually plan to go the first couple times I go to a venue. I don't plan to scene at all. I just plan to go and, like, socialize, maybe dance if there's dancing, you know, maybe have a drink if there's drinks, but not actually do any scenes or play, because I'm mostly there to scope out the people and, like, get a vibe check going. And I've definitely been to parties before. I'm like, nope. Yeah, usually it's, like, too crowded, too many vanilla men just spectating and, like, not respecting space. You know, no DMs or, like, a lack of DMs checking on things, like, just doesn't feel very safe, or, like, maybe I see people doing stuff I don't consider to be safe. Just doesn't pass the vibe check for whatever reason, and I just don't go back. Happens every once in a while, for sure. But I've never seen anything that's been so bad where I, like, turn around and leave immediately. Maybe if I didn't have my wits about me as much and I didn't have, like, a checklist in my head of what to look for, that might happen, but yeah. Alright, so we got the nails are all nice and shiny. Guess maybe outside of putting on this, we're more or less done. We're done-ski, baby. Whoa. It's gonna put on a little light layer of this. But yeah, it's good to be safe and be cautious, but I think there's a balancing act between being cautious and, like, not acting. And, like, not doing anything. This is a Milani lip stain. I'm not being super precise with it because it's just a lip stain. There you go. That's it. I'm actually not wearing this dress, but, like, for the date, for the nighttime festivities, but I had it on earlier today. But that is about all we're going to be doing here today, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Friday evening. There's a new video out if you haven't seen it, talking about Tumblr, and there'll be a video on Sunday that'll be out very soon. And thank you so much. If you'd like to see that, make sure to subscribe, and I'll talk to you all soon. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, hi, Bendita. You want to say goodbye? Hi, since you weren't on camera. Oh, it's okay, honey. I'm sorry. Did I get something? Did I poke you? Sorry, baby. Bendita says goodbye. Bendita says goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.